Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Alliances for Advisors Only webinar series. Today's webinar, Refresh Your Commitment, will be facilitated by Tracy Wyant, the Alliances Project Specialist. My name is Christine Beck. I am part of the Alliance. I serve as the Organizational Director. Today is Thursday, May 9th, 2019. As a reminder, all attendees are in listen-only mode. There'll be some opportunities to communicate with the facilitator, and we ask that you type in whatever you'd like to share utilizing your control panel, and we will read those comments out loud. This webinar is being recorded, and we will be sending out a copy of the recording once it has been converted. The Alliance is funded by the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities. So a little bit about the Alliance. We are a network of advocates, allies, and self-advocacy groups around Illinois. Our vision is for self-advocates to work together to get the support we need and to live the life we want in the community. Our mission is to speak up for ourselves and each other while working together to make changes in our communities and in Illinois. Our focus is on empowering people to speak up and speak out about what they want and need, what they don't want and don't need, to action plan their goals, and to participate in advocacy at the personal, agency, community, and statewide levels. We do a lot of different things to achieve our mission and vision. We support local groups. We work together on important issues. We offer networking, advocacy, and learning opportunities, including monthly newsletters, webinars, the Alliance Ambassador Leadership Program, and the Training Institute. The Alliance currently has member groups all around Illinois. We actually just welcomed our 26th member group towards our goal of having 40 member groups. So we'll start with the northern part of our state. We have member groups in McHenry and Zion and Dixon. Chicago and the surrounding areas are very well represented with member groups in Alsip, Brookfield, the city of Chicago, Chicago Heights, and Homewood. We also have member groups in Rock Island, Galesburg, and Pontiac. We welcomed our newest group, Friendship League, with the agency TCRC in Tremont, Illinois. We have groups centrally located in Bloomington, Beardstown, Jacksonville, Decatur, and Monticello. And towards the southern part of our state, we have member groups in Alton, Edwardsville, Charleston, and Paris. As I like to say, no matter where you are, there is a member group near you. And this is really important for our advisors, that you know where member groups are around you so that you can work together to bring about the changes that you would like to see in your communities and in Illinois. And so now I'd like to introduce our presenter, Tracy Wyant. Tracy, take it away.
Hi, I am Tracy Wyant, a project specialist for the Alliance. I was also a former advisor for an advocacy group at the LCAA, which is Livingston County Advocates in Action up in Pontiac. I was up there for quite a while. Overall, I've got about 12 years of experience of supporting people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. My favorite part of supporting self-advocates is my constant self-growth and seeing others grow and find their voice. Through being an advisor for an advocacy group, I have to say I learned a lot. I've had a lot of success, but I've also had a lot of mistakes, and I've learned a lot along the way. So anywhere that I can help any other advisor out there help with ideas or problems that are coming up, I'm happy to do so. So I kind of wanted to get a feel a little bit here about how did you get here? You know, all of us kind of have different ways that brought us to the same point. Did you become an advisor because you were hired to be an advisor for an advocacy group? Some agencies hired you just to do that, to just be an advisor for an advocacy group. Others, maybe you saw it somewhere and you had this idea, so you presented it to your director or to your supervisor and got the advocacy group started. Or did you get this job because it fell under all other duties assigned? So if you could, for just a second, I was just kind of curious to see where we all kind of came from. So if you could go in the control panel there and just type in and say, how did you get to get here? How did you get to become an advisor?
All right, so this is your opportunity to speak up and speak out. I know a lot of our advisors have participated in that call and response with their self-advocates, especially as we attend different conferences and the Speak Up and Speak Out Summit. So far, Jason, who is an advisor at CIA, or Change to Independence altogether in the Bloomington Normal area, he said it was his idea. And Kristen, who is an advisor at North Point Resources in Zion, said, well, fell under all other duties as assigned. And Cheryl, who is an advisor for CTF Advocacy in Charleston, said, it's part of my job description as an advocacy coordinator. And we have Jan, who is the advisor for AIM, Advocates in Motion in McHenry. And like Jason, she said, I came up with the idea to start a group. And that's all that people have shared right now.
That's really interesting. That's really neat that some of you guys, so we kind of had one from each category. We had some that were actually hired and that was part of their job descriptions. Others had the idea and went and worked on that, and others just happened to be fell under all of their duties assigned. So thanks for sharing, guys.
And before we leave this slide, I had Brenda, who is an advisor at Macon Resources, or MRI in Decatur, and she raised her hand. I'm going to take her off of mute. Sometimes people, the control panel doesn't work as well as it might want to, so I'm going to take her off of mute and see if she has anything to add. Brenda, are you there?
Hi, Christine. Yes, I am.
Okay, so do you want to share, how did you get to be an advisor?
Actually, it fell under all other duties assigned.
All right. Thank you very much, Brenda. So it sounds like we had a couple of people who had the idea, had another couple of people that they were hired to do this and it was part of their job description, and then we have some other people who was all other duties as assigned. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks, guys. So here's a question you get all the time. Oh my gosh, how do I know if I'm being a good advisor? Or what do I have to do to be a good advisor? And you got some good news and bad news. If we look at it, there is no right way or wrong way to be an advisor. But we do have some tools that you can use to help along your journey. So how can an advisor help the group? Let's look at some ways that just you personally can help. Know your responsibilities. Make sure you find balance. Listen more than you talk. And ask the questions, the who, the what, the when, the where, and the how questions. Use people first language. And remember to show respect. Remember that golden rule? Treat others as you want to be treated. And the other important one is know when to get out of the way. So let's look at the responsibilities of an advisor. An advisor is a person with or without a disability who is not a voting member of the self-advocacy group. The advisor does not get a vote. That's always, I think, very important to keep in mind. The advisor also is to support by facilitation of the group meetings, you know, checking to make sure that the room's available or that the time is always consistent, or just being able to provide that opportunity. Also, the advisor's job is to provide information about community resources. You know, a lot of times our advocates lack the access to computer or to emails. So a lot of times our advisors will get all of our information about trainings and newsletters. And, you know, your job is to take that to your group and to let them know that this is out there and that this is available. Support self-advocates to assume leadership roles and to speak for themselves. I always thought, you know, to find, many times our self-advocates are so into the mode of people telling them what to do, when they're going to do it, how they're going to do it, that they become followers. And I think our biggest job as an advisor is to find those followers and help them find their voice and make them realize that they have, their opinions are validated, their opinions are valuable, and that they can become leaders. So let's look at the balance. When I talk about balance, I talk about how advisors need to carefully balance the level of influence that they bring to the group for when the advocates need to go make decisions. Your job as the advisor is to just state the facts. So, you know, if there's a bill that's out there and you're going to present it to the group, and your job is to present the facts, whether you agree with it or disagree isn't really relevant. Your job is to just make sure that you get them the information in a way that they can understand it, and then they come to the conclusion to make that decision on their own. Listen, you know, it seems like it's such a simple thing to do, but sometimes it can be so hard. To talk less, you know, become a chameleon, blend into the background, but always be listening to what the group is discussing. You know, when self-advocates ask for the advisor's guidance, be sure that you're listening to them with your undivided attention. You know, they just really want to make sure that they are being validated and being heard. Make sure you give self-advocates plenty of time to talk. And always repeat back to them what they said to you so that you can make sure that you fully understand and that they feel that they were heard and validated. So questions, you know, so many times the advocates will look to the advisors to have all the answers. That's not our job. Our job isn't to come up with the answer. Our job is to help promote them in thinking, problem solving, and coming up with the answers themselves. So the important questions, I always feel like whenever there was something that would come up and they didn't have the answers, we just break it down. Who's going to do what? What is it we're trying to do? When? Where? How are you guys going to go about doing it? And why are we doing it? Now, people first language. This is something that is so important because the language we use to describe people, they hear it and they look at it as their self-worth. So it's so important that we use people first language. And, you know, you hear so many people talk about it, and everybody's always sometimes afraid that they're going to say it wrong. But, you know, all you have to remember to do is say the person who uses a wheelchair, the person with the disability. Some of the ones I like to look at here that are just kind of always point out to me is when someone says nonverbal. They're nonverbal, they can't communicate. Well, we all know that being in this field that a person does not need to use words to communicate. You know, think about when, you know, somebody cuts you off on the road. You don't necessarily use words, but you definitely use some sign so that they know exactly how you feel. You know, individuals that may not be able to communicate with their voice, they use many different ways, sign language, communication boards, you know, so just really try not to use the nonverbal person, but a person who communicates with. Also the high or low functioning, that always gets to me too, when everybody says, oh, you know, you're high functioning or you're low functioning. I often think, you know, what if someone was talking about me and I heard them say, oh, she's low functioning. Well, I, you know, tie my opinions and my self-worth to that. And I think, well, you know, I guess it really doesn't matter. And I just feel like when you say it, you should say the person requires maybe more or less support, not the high functioning or the low functioning.
And Tracy, if I can add to the conversation, which has been awesome, we are all really good at certain things and we are all in need of support in some other things. So when I've heard people talk high functioning, low functioning, I think, well, I'm not good at math. I would probably be called low functioning. And I'm pretty low functioning at climbing a 6-foot ladder, even if asked. So, you know, it goes back to there are all things we excel at, and there's all things that, frankly, maybe we just can't do well, or we really don't care about them.
Definitely. Very true. Very true. And I know that on this slide here, people will talk about, you know, say that he or she needs behavior support, not that they have behavior problems or they're such a behavior, you know, because remember, a person's self-image is tied to the words that we use about them. And they hear us use those words, you know, and it's important that we use words that build people up and not tear them down. And then, of course, the golden rule, you know, treat people as you want to be treated. You know, think about it. When you have an idea or a problem or a concern or question and you take it to your supervisor or your coworkers, how do you want to be received? How do you want to be treated? Do you want them to just brush it, go by really quick and be done with it? Or do you really want them to hear you, listen to you, and then give back some feedback, you know, some suggestions, or just definitely sit there and listen to them? It would give the respect that you would want someone to give you. Get out of the way. Now this is, you know, sometimes this one is the hardest one because sometimes the group will come up with an opinion or an idea and you don't agree with it. They're sitting there going back and forth with something and they have this great idea and you're like, oh, this is not going to work out. This is not going to go well. You know, you can state your opinion in a respectful respectful way, like asking, well, what happens if this happens? Or what happens if that happens? But in the end, the group votes to do it their way, and you must respect that. Some of the most important lessons that we've learned in life are from our biggest mistakes. Don't take that right away from the individuals that you're working with. They have that right to make mistakes, just like everybody does, because that's the only way that we learn. So now the Alliance has a range of tools that we put in our toolbox to try to help the advisors. And I was going to kind of go over them real quick here a little bit, and then I'm going to give you a moment to chime in and tell us like which ones you have used. Maybe you haven't used any of them. Maybe you've used them and we're like, didn't work. Or maybe you have a new one that we can actually add to it. So to kind of go over them, we've got the Alliance monthly newsletter. Check out our Facebook page. Visit our website. Attend or listen to our webinars and trainings. Use a goal sheet. Use the friendly Robert Rule of Order. We have an environmental checklist and a top 10 list for healthy self-advocacy groups, and be in touch with your Alliance staff member. So now here's when you guys are going to get to be active in this. Can anybody tell me, have they ever used any of these tools that we just talked about? And if you did, which ones did you find helpful? Which ones did you feel really worked? Which ones do you feel like they didn't work?
All right, this is your time to speak up and speak out. I don't even know where to get the tools. This is from Lisa. She is the advisor with Dixon Delegates. And so Tracy, Lisa has shared, I don't know where to get the tools. Where are these resources at?
Yeah, well, she asked that question. It's a great question. I feel like our best way to get these tools is to go to our Facebook page or to go to our website. I got that on the next slide. We're going to talk about that, about the website address, and by going on Facebook and liking us, because with that, you're able to be connected to all the trainings that are coming up. You're going to be able to be aware of any like bills that are going on that maybe need you to fill out a witness slip on. So there are many, many ways to get access to these tools. Also, our newsletter is really valuable. Right now, we send our newsletter out just to the advisors, and some advisors will print copies off for everybody, and some are like, oh, you know, we can't do that, but we can put it up on a projector and read it during the meeting. Some advisors will take and make one copy and hang it on a bulletin board, or so that it has access, everybody has a chance to look at it. But in the newsletter, it's a great way to see what all the advocacy groups are doing out and about. And it's a great way to know when trainings are coming up, and it always has the information on where to register and how to go about that. So that is a great question.
Yes, we will look at some of those resources in the upcoming slides. From Cheryl, who is the advisor with CTF Advocacy in Charleston. She writes, I've used all of them. The webinars work well, and then we discuss them. The newsletters are helpful also. We went to the website and often listen to archived webinars that we've missed. And then from Jan, who is the advisor at Advocates in Motion in McHenry, she writes, I used the Alliance newsletter and connected with Alliance staff. Jason is the advisor at Change to Independence Altogether in Bloomington Normal. And he writes, we have used them all. The one we have found doesn't work as well as Robert's Rules. Would love a section to connect with a group of advisors quickly if we have questions they might be able to answer. So a couple things there, and thanks for that feedback. The Robert's Rules don't seem to work as well. That's great information for us to look into that. And then a section to get with other advisors. Let me see here.
Yeah, I think that's so important when you are able to, I would love, that would be a goal, is for the advisors to be able to branch out and help each other, you know, because the more you network and the more you get ideas and feedback from others, it really, you don't feel so alone in it.
Yeah. And from Ashley, she is an advisor at LCAA, which stands for Livingston County Advocates in Action in Pontiac. Ashley writes, we go over the newsletter at our monthly meetings with self-advocates. We post it on our LCAA bulletin board. We use the Robert's Rules of Order. We feel that the webinars are very helpful. And then Lisa, who again is the advisor with Dixon Delegates. Lisa writes, do you have a sample agenda that would have an easy form with some basic things on it so it would be minimal writing for the secretary? I am always planning to make one, but seem to run out of time. And you know what, Lisa? Yes, we have that, and Tracy and I will make sure that you get that information. We will email it to you. There's also information in our group manual that you can find on our website under resources, but we will make sure that you get copies of some sample agendas.
Definitely, definitely.
All right.
These are some great feedback. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys. So talking about our Alliance newsletter, I know I kind of already talked a little bit about it, but it's a great way for you to check out upcoming trainings and webinars, or just to check out other things that other advocacy groups are doing. And, you know, I always say contribute an article to our monthly newsletter. You know, even if your group just maybe did a bulletin board and it was really neat, pop us a picture and put a little blurb as to what the bulletin board is. I know one advocacy group did a whole month on disability awareness, and they put up all the famous people that have stated that they have disabilities, and they just put that, you know, up there on the bulletin board and wrote a blurb about it, and we put it in the newsletter. And it's just a great way to get other ideas from other people. You know, just we want to hear about what your group is doing. And it's a great way to get connected.
Yeah, we'd like to help you toot your horn. So if you have had an event or an activity that is really meaningful to your self-advocacy group or the self-advocates at your agency or organization or within your community, let us know about it. We would love to include that in our monthly newsletter or on our social media through Facebook. And pictures are always welcome as long as there's permission from folks to take pictures and to post those pictures. I also want to share that Kristen, who is the advisor at North Point Resources in Zion, said, "We review the Alliance monthly newsletter at our meetings. We connect with our Alliance staff. We have started to use recorded archive webinars as well and have at least one scheduled per month to view." So thank you for that.
I always find that I had a few people will say, you know, well, we just have so much time left over after the meeting, you know, how do we fill this time up? And I always tell them, go to the webinar, you know, go to our pre-recorded webinars, pick one, listen to it. It's a great way to start discussion, you know, and to learn something by it too. So I'm glad that they're doing that. Now, the next one is about the Alliance Facebook and the website. So go to our Facebook. It's Facebook at Alliance or Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance, or visit our website at www.selfadvocacyalliance.org. And just using these resources are going to give you access to all of our webinars, links to all the legislative stuff, self-advocacy resources, and just so much more. I really can't say enough about that. If you go to the Facebook and the website, in this day and age, you know, everything is social media, and you will really find a wealth of information just by going to our website and by our Facebook. But the newsletter is very helpful as well. Now, we're talking about the Robert's Rules of Order. You know, sometimes they work great for groups. A lot of times groups, maybe if they've gotten kind of big and they want more organization to their group, they'll use the Robert's Rules of Order. I'm going to warn you, it takes a while for everybody to get the hang of it, because it really is something that you have to do over and over again to get into a routine. And sometimes it can get frustrating at first, but don't give up, because Robert's Rules of Order carries out through everything, not even just, you know, the Alliance or your advocacy group, but if you ever go and sit on any board anywhere else, or even if they sit on the Alliance board, we follow the Robert's Rules of Order. So, you know, it's definitely extremely important.
All right, Tracy?
Yep.
Oh, okay, we lost you for a minute, but
sorry.
We heard that where we kind of lost you, that Robert's Rules of Order is important and we utilize it for the Alliance's board of directors.
Yes. And just the Alliance has a friendlier version of the Robert's Rules of Order, so you could try that, you know, and see if that would kind of help kind of guide it. And, you know, in the end, it's their group. So if they feel that, you know, it's just not working, then that's fine. That's, you know, it's their group. They get to decide how they want to do it. So, but yeah. Robert's Rules of Order is definitely tricky, but it is, when the group gets going and they really do it, it really helps make sure that everybody gets heard. You know, everybody gets a chance to feel like they get to vote on something. So it definitely has a place. This next one is like my favorite one. It's the goal sheet. And I love this because I feel that it does many things. It keeps people accountable. It's a visual. And whenever, like myself as an advisor was like, oh my goodness, who was supposed to do that? I can go back and look up my goal sheet. What the goal sheet is you just put down, you know, what it is that your group is wanting to do. Maybe it could be something as they're going to plan a fundraiser. Maybe it has something to do with the group feels like their bylaws need to be updated. So what you do is you're going to put the goal up there, and what is it that we're going to do? Then you put who's going to do it. Who is going to do it? You know, if you're going to do a fundraiser, you got to find somebody that is going to make phone calls maybe, or maybe ask the agency if you can have the fundraiser on their property or look around. So who's going to do those tasks? And this is the other big important one, is by when. Set a deadline. Set a deadline, set a date, you know, so that you can go back and check and follow up and say, oh, hey, you know what, Susie, you were supposed to do this by this date. Was it done? And if it is, great, you can write notes to see what the outcome was for that. And if Susie forgot, it's a great way to say, oh, Susie, remember, you know, you volunteered, you said that you'd be willing to do this. So, you know, it's a great way to keep people accountable. So I really, really like the goal sheet. Here we go, the success, S-U-C-C-E-S-S. That's the way to spell success. So, you know, like I said, you know, I've been working with advocacy group for a while, and I've had some great successes. We've also had maybe some not some, but I want to hear about your guys' success. It doesn't have to be big. It could be something as small as, guess what? We got our meetings down to where we're having it the same day every week, or every, you know, same day of the week, once a month, however you want to do it. It can be a small success or it could be a big success. So if you could just take some time and just maybe kind of put out there some of the success that your group has had.
So this is your opportunity to speak up and speak out and write down and share your successes. And one of the things that we know that helps build community is to hear about each other's successes. And that can help maybe plant the seeds for somebody else when they've heard, hey, this other group has, like Tracy said, been able to successfully figure out how to do their group meetings on the same day or date every month. The struggle is real sometimes. The struggle is real. So successes are like people, they come in all shapes and sizes. And let's see. All right, so this is an awesome success. Jason, who's the advisor at Change to Independence Altogether in the Bloomington Normal area, writes, we did our first presentation at Speak Up and Speak Out last year, and that is awesome. I recently, I think it was yesterday, I sent out the information. The call for speakers or the call for presenters is now open for Speak Up and Speak Out Summit 2019. Perhaps like Jason, you have a group of folks that would like to give a presentation, and we would love for groups, small groups, bigger groups, individuals to do presentations at Speak Up and Speak Out. We've seen such a wonderful change over the 12 years of the summit to go from people without disabilities doing the presenting to people with disabilities doing the presenting. And that's a lot of times because of you as advisors and other people believing in the power of advocacy. All right. So Ashley, who is an advisor at Livingston County Advocates in Action in Pontiac, writes, we set a goal in 2018. We achieved that goal, which was self-advocates leading a class on something they chose. We set a new 2019 goal, which is to volunteer more in the community. We also have had several self-advocates present webinars, and I will applaud that. Way to go. And if you have any self-advocates that are ready for the next one right step in their lives, maybe that is doing a presentation as a webinar, certainly let Tracy or I know. We'd love to work with folks to help them bring about their experiences and their expertise.
Definitely.
Cheryl, the advisor at CTF Advocacy in Charleston, writes, we've had success with presenting how to start your own advocacy group at a local school. And that is awesome, because we've heard about some of our self-advocacy groups going to the local high schools or maybe even the local colleges and talking to folks about self-advocacy and inclusion and diversity and how that can build community. And then we have Jan, who has shared, and Jan is an advisor at Advocates in Motion in McHenry. Jan writes, the AIM group presents at their agency to new staff about self-advocacy and the AIM group. And that is awesome. If you are with an agency or organization, you have new hire training, whether that's DSP or direct support professional training, QIDP or qualified intellectual disability professional training, or some other kind of new hire training. Here's an awesome opportunity to get self-advocates involved in presenting.
You know, and something as simple too is to add on to that with your agency, having the advocates give people tours of the agency when they come, you know, just having them walk around and being able to show off their place.
Yeah. And Kristen, who is the advisor at North Point Resources in Zion, some of the successes that her group has experienced include having the same day and time each month is helpful. This is a comment. It is helpful, although it frequently gets changed. And I think being flexible is probably part of the job description, either written or unwritten, of an advisor.
So many days you show up and guess what? The day that you thought you had planned for so much, it's not going to go that way. So you definitely got to be flexible.
Right. Another success is getting individuals who have not participated before to get more involved. And that's always very exciting. And there's also been support of several individuals who have presented at the state as well as the national level. So thank you for sharing that.
That's awesome. Now, of course, with all of our successes, I know that we have all had this happen where you have thought, well, this is going to be a great idea. And then what in the world happened? It's like it all went south real quick. So I just kind of wanted to, you know, what are some lessons that maybe that you have learned, that your group would learn by making some mistakes, or maybe even not necessarily mistakes, but things that you think, oh, we're going to do that a little differently next time. So here's another opportunity for you to participate.
All right, some more speak up and speak out. What are some of the lessons learned? How can we share our, I'm not going to say they're even failures, there's just opportunities for us to learn to do differently. But what are some of the things that happened that we're comfortable with sharing? maybe what happened, how we would do things differently the next time.
Right.
How can we support each other and give each other some tips and techniques and tricks, maybe to avoid some of the pitfalls of being an advisor?
And, you know, and I think too, when you talk about this, it's really important to remember to have a sense of humor, you know, to laugh at yourself. You're only human, you know, and mistakes are going to happen. And it's a great way to turn them into learning opportunities. So I'm like with you, don't think of it as failure. Think of it as a learning opportunity.
Well, I'll share something real fast. When we were doing a training, we were utilizing some place and space off-site, and we had lunch, and folks came back from lunch and used the washroom. And then someone, the last person to come in from the washroom, came in and said, and in their hand showed somebody set a teeth. They said, did anybody leave their teeth in the bathroom? And then kind of everybody started smiling and showing their teeth. And sure enough, the person who left their teeth in the bathroom, we kind of figured that one out. But, you know, don't forget your teeth. Don't forget your teeth in the bathroom.
I can share one that I did. We were going to do a fundraiser, and we were going to sell nachos, and I misspelled the word nachos, and instead it came out naco, and I had already made all the copies, and we were hung up everywhere and sent them out to tons of people. So it was, you know, come get your nachos, not your nachos. So definitely learned to spell check that.
Yes.
You could get nachos for $1.50.
Well, you know what? Hey, there you go. People might come just to see what in the world a naco is. And
Right.
Jason, an advisor with Change to Independence Altogether in Bloomington Normal, writes, before, I always thought, since I was the advisor, I need to help the advocates with everything that is part of the group. After some projects and activities that didn't go as well as they should, I realized that there are other people in the agency that care and want to help. So now I make sure to ask for help as much as needed.
Oh, Jason, that is a great, great point. And so true. You know, so many times I think we feel pressured to do it all, because if we don't do it, who's going to? But by us asking for help gives other people the opportunity to show us their talent. So that was a very great point.
All right. Tracy, are you there? There you go.
There you go. We're kind of getting some storms now, so it's like, I don't know if it's messing with the internet or not. But now I kind of want to look at help. We're here to help you. So let's discuss any issues that you think that you or your group are having that maybe we all as a group can kind of talk about and kind of come up with ideas. I heard that about like had no idea where to even get the tools at, like with the Facebook or the website. You know, that was a great way or opportunity to bring that about. What are some other things that maybe you guys are just kind of struggling with or going through as a group that maybe we could kind of talk about and kind of see if anybody's got some ideas?
And if you're not comfortable at writing and sharing, we certainly understand that. You can always email Tracy or myself, and we will help you find the information or connect you with someone who can support you in that, whatever you have that's going on.
Definitely.
All right. Oh, okay. This is from Ashley. She is an advisor with Livingston County Advocates in Action in Pontiac. Ashley writes, we struggle on deciding what to do for agenda topics.
Oh, that's a good one. You know, has anybody else ever had that struggle with their group with coming up with the agenda topics?
All right, let's see. Jason says yes, and Jason again is an advisor with Change to Independence Altogether in Bloomington Normal. So it sounds like we have experienced some times of what in the world do we talk about on our agenda? What do we put on there?
And and sometimes it, a lot of times it can be maybe something that's going on in the agency that you can talk about on the agenda. Maybe it's something, I don't, it's even happening like in the news, the newsworthy, that you can look at and use it as an advocacy learning time. Does anybody else have any ideas to help with that question?
And Jason additionally shared that we meet every week. So Change to Independence Altogether meets every week, and it can get very thin on what to discuss.
And there's another good time too to make an opportunity to practice public speaking. If you find out that there's just really nothing to talk about and you got all this extra time, pull out some questions. Write some questions on a slip of paper, like my favorite color is. Put everything in a hat and make them pull it out, and then have to answer it or communicate or talk about the thing, just to kind of get people into the habit of speaking in front of others or sharing their ideas.
All right.
Sometimes we did self-advocacy skill role-playing as well. Talked about if there was an issue in the group home with your roommate, how would you go about solving that? So those were some things that, like, we looked at it as opportunities for advocates to just practice more advocacy skills.
All right. Well, thank you for that information and for folks sharing. Jan from Advocates in Motion in McHenry writes, it is hard to always get the group involved in agenda topics, and when they volunteer for things, they don't follow through.
And that's when I say go back and use that goal sheet. That was one of the biggest things that helped me, because I was able to say, no, you said that this is what was going to happen, and you promised not just me, but you promised the group, and to really even see what that consequence is like if you don't follow through with a commitment that you've made. And I think it's a great way of holding people accountable. It's also a great way for you to remember who said that they were going to do what. So that's when I feel like my best resource was the goal sheet, and that seemed to help me a lot with that.
And I'd like to add that Kristen, who's the advisor with North Point Resources in Zion, shared, we struggle at times with motivating self-advocates to follow through. And Kristen also writes, I like the idea of discussing what is going on in our communities, the state, or the world. Sometimes we just focus on our program.
Right. And I don't know if any of your groups has ever been introduced like to filling out a witness slip. That's something that you can talk about, because that will deal with the bills that are in motion right now that people are voting on, and they definitely need your opinion and your insight, or to hear your voice on that. And it's a great way to just kind of go and look up on all the bills that are that attain with individuals with disabilities, what they're talking about, what bills are going through that are up for votes or up for discussion and things like that. And it's a great way to start talking about how, if this bill does go through or doesn't go through, how is it going to impact your life?
And Jason, the advisor at Change to Independence Altogether in Bloomington Normal, shared, to help people follow through, I have helped them to email a staff they trusted to help them, letting them know what they needed. So again, that getting somebody else involved.
And that's a really good way too.
And from Brenda, an advisor with MRI in Decatur, Brenda writes, the MRI Empowerment Group struggles with questions to ask potential members who want to join their Alliance self-advocacy group.
And and that's a good thing to bring up too, is like your membership. What is your group going to require a active member to look like in your group? Maybe it is questions, maybe it's not so much questions as it is attendance. That you say we have 12 meetings out of the year, and to be an active member, you have to attend so many meetings out of that year. And if, as far as like questions to ask, they may not know exactly what the whole thing about being an advocate is until once they get involved in it and kind of see what's all going on. Maybe you could even have a person kind of like interview them and explain to them what they've done, instead of necessarily asking them the question to to become a member.
All right. So I think we're ready to move on to our next slide, which is questions, comments, and contributions. We've been talking about that quite some time. So if you have any questions, comments, or contributions, in addition to what we've already talked about, maybe it's something outside of what we talked about, certainly we would like to hear more from you. Our goal would be to do regular For Advisors Only webinars, but we'd like some help with topics. What topics would you like to see and hear? Certainly, Jason letting us know that the Robert's Rules of Order doesn't work well for you. That's an opportunity for us at the Alliance to go back and look at it with fresh eyes to see if what we've done before needs updating. We're always looking for promising practices, and you all help us with that.
And is that something that they're interested in? Do you guys feel that it would help benefit you guys as advisors to have webinars on a regular basis for advisors only?
All right, and maybe everybody is busy typing in their questions, comments, and contributions. So we'll leave that open for just a few more seconds while we go to this final slide. So we know that many of you have already connected with your Alliance staff, whether that is connecting with Tracy, connecting with myself, Christine Beck, connecting with J-Jen Pak, connecting with Tara Ahern. It really doesn't matter. Whoever you reach out and connect with is great. Just reach out and connect. They'll help you get to the right person to find hopefully the right information. We have a general email address that we share with folks. It's info@selfadvocacyalliance.org. Our website, if you haven't visited it or don't have it bookmarked yet, it is selfadvocacyalliance.org. And we do have a Facebook page, so we encourage you to find us and like us at Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance. And we've got some final questions, comments, and contributions. Thank you, Cheryl. Cheryl is an advisor at CTF Advocacy Center in Charleston. Cheryl writes, I would like more advisors-only webinars. So thank you for that feedback.
Definitely.
Dan writes, I would love regular webinars for advisors. It is great to hear what others are doing. And Jason writes, yes, I like the advisor-only webinar. Would love one on ideas for new and fun projects for the advocates. All right, I see a challenge there, and I like that. I like it too. Yes. So Tracy, before we close, do you have any last bits of advice to share?
Well, I know what you guys do is so important, and I know you probably hear that a lot, but I want you to take a moment and really let it sink in that you are making such an impact and such a difference, and you don't even know that you are. I believe that every strong advocacy group starts with a strong advocacy advisor, and I know that it is sometimes it's such a struggle. Something as simple as just trying to get the transportation department to work with you, or always being short-staffed and feeling like, oh my goodness, I have one more thing I have to get done. But you truly are making a difference. And our advocacy groups are great. They blow me away with everything that they accomplish and what they can get accomplished. So they're doing a great job. You guys are doing a wonderful job. And thank you so much for all the feedback too. That really helps a lot.
Well, thank you, Tracy, for facilitating this webinar for advisors only. It's been a pleasure to learn with and from you and from everyone who has participated today. On behalf of the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance, thank you for your support of self-advocacy, the self-advocacy movement in Illinois, and the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.